All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the TiE Startup Showcase Edition 9. We would like to thank all of you who have been joining us at various sessions, especially the startup founders, the special guests, and moderators like Vijeta, Madan from Your Story, who have been taking the time every single time to engage the startups and make it more interactive. This is going to be a very special session because we're going to have a video that we're going to play, which is around design thinking for startups, courtesy the NetApp Accelerator, who have been gracious enough to give us this content, which will be very useful. So with this, we will start with the video on design thinking for startups.
Thank you, Vinay.
Hello, everyone. I am delighted to bring this session on design thinking for startups. And we have with us Christi Zuber, founder and managing director, Aspen Labs. She's also a faculty, Northwestern University, and co-founder of Design Thinking Exchange. Christi is internationally recognized for her trailblazing work in the field of innovation and human-centered design. She has over 20 years of leading teams, observing users, creatively generating ideas, and conducting field experiments to develop solutions that work and have been implemented around the globe. Christi, it's such a pleasure to have you here, especially given that you have founded the first of its kind innovation and design function in healthcare in your former leadership role at Kaiser Permanente. Our audience today comprises of some very exciting founders and entrepreneurs. And without much ado, we'll jump into the questions. So we are going to do the sessions in two parts. I'll spend the first few minutes just understanding from Christi what is the philosophy behind design thinking and get a flavor of it. And then I'll hand it over to Christi. She has a presentation through which she'll give you a lot of practical tools, tips, and advice. So, Christi, if that's okay with you, we will begin. Yeah, thanks.
Great.
Okay, so as I said, let us begin, by hearing from you. What is the philosophy behind design thinking? And, why should startup embrace it?
Well, I think that's a great question, and thank you for asking that. I would say when you think about design thinking, fundamentally there are a couple components that make it unique. One is you start with the needs of the person or people that you're designing your solution for. And as simple as that sounds, many of us, particularly those of us that are starting up new companies, we love our ideas, right? We love what it can accomplish. We love the technology. We love what the solution is. And what design thinking is it says, let's pause for a moment and let's really immerse ourselves and understand what the fundamental driving needs are of the people that we're trying to provide this product, solution, or service for. So it gives you tips and tools and approaches to be able to do that. So that's one of the fundamental things. Another is that design thinking also provides you with approaches to really think very broadly and creatively about what the possibilities might be for those solutions. All of us in this kind of space are creative people, but we can also get stuck in our ruts. And what it is that our past experiences have told us, we're designing and we're sort of creating and tweaking in the same space. Design thinking helps us to be inspired by what the needs are of the people that we're solving for and think very creatively about what those are. And then I would say the third component that's a hallmark of design thinking is the iterative nature of rapidly prototyping, rapidly experimenting until you find a solution that really works. I think oftentimes we put a lot of investment and a lot of time into getting everything to work perfectly before we actually let it see the light of day. And so what design thinking does is it oxygenates our ideas. It provides ways of creating ideas and solutions in a much faster, cheaper way, so that we save ourselves from expensive failures further down the road.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the key word there is rapidly, because if there's something that is, in short supply for entrepreneurs, it's time, and always, right? Other things they can still get it, but not time.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. So since we are talking about time, I do want to ask you an audience question that has come up, and I'll read it out for you. In a fast-paced startup world, yes, you are an entrepreneur yourself, so you know how fast-paced it is. How much of a time should one allocate for design thinking? And does it mean taking a step back from ongoing startup sales efforts and put it towards it?
Yeah, I think that's a tricky question because, not knowing how much time or where somebody is, but I would say um, design thinking, if you bring in the mindset into where you are with design thinking of understanding and empathizing with the people that you're trying to design your solutions for, sometimes what is important is to take your idea and pause for a moment and say, I'm going to reground myself in myself and what it is that they need. And that might come in a couple different forms. So this is a little bit of design thinking 201. So bear with me on this. So we just are ratcheting it up a little bit. So there's asking people and doing qualitative interviews and asking people what it is that they need and getting curious about what they do. There's also ways of exploring where you might bring yourselves into their environment. And let's say if they're on a factory floor and shadow what's actually happening or in a workplace setting. There's also what I call sacrificial prototypes. And so if you're at the point that you're already building many things, what you could do is actually create low fidelity prototypes that are quite different and put those kinds of things in front of people to see what their reaction is. Because I think often we're trying to show them one thing and we're trying to hone in on this one idea. And so their feedback isn't as helpful as it could be if we show them a range of things and get their feedback. And sometimes the reason I call it sacrificial types is sometimes you put something in front of them that you think there's no way that they would like this. There's no way that they're going to respond to this well. And you might be surprised. And so that's a way of getting people's actual reactions and behaviors to things that is more in the kind of the prototyping phase, if that's where you are. So there's different ways of doing that. And so I think having some of those different tools in your toolkit will allow you to bring in the design thinking principles and not slow down your work too much.
Okay, thanks. So this then begs the question, what are those practical tools that, and especially with the focus on software startups, because, primarily what we are looking at is tech startups, which have a product, mostly software. Of course, hardware, people do know about applying design thinking in hardware, but the hard question that we are facing here is applying design thinking principles and building a software product. So I know we have a presentation which does answer a lot of these questions. So we look forward to that. Some of the things that we are hoping to get out of that is, as I said, how do we apply? What are the tools? What are the, some tips that can get startups on this journey? Are there any frameworks in design thinking which you would specifically recommend for various stages, right? Those that are in the idea stage, those that are in the early stage, and those that are in the growth stage. And given that we primarily at NetApp Accelerator work with B2B startups, if you can shed some light, if there is anything different for B2B SaaS startups, that would be awesome. So with that, Christi, I will hand it over to you, and the next half an hour is yours. Meanwhile, if there are any questions from the audience, I'll request them to type it on chat, and we can take it later. Yeah. With that, it's over to you, Christi. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are my slides showing all right for you?
Yes, we can see the slides.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you all very much. So I know you've already had an introduction to me, so I will just jump in and get started. This is my organization, Aspen Lab. So this is the company that I founded after I left Kaiser Permanente. And this is kind of a little bit about us and what we're about. So we actually already mentioned this in the beginning comments, and this is one of the most important and precious resources for startup companies. Is this idea actually worth my time? That's a question that will keep us up in the middle of the night. So I want to go through a little bit about how design thinking and customer discovery plays into that. And I would say if there's one thing that you take away from this, it's how these tools actually can help you de-risk your products and solutions into the future. So I want to ask you, I know we're not all sort of speaking live on this, but I want to ask you here, and you can feel free to type into the chat if you have an answer to this question. Why do most startups fail? What is the number one reason why most startups fail? So when you think about it, what's keeping them back from being successful? So there's an organization, as you're thinking about that, there's an organization called CB Insights, and CB Insights actually focused on this very question. And what they ended up finding was the following. The number one reason, you can see a host of reasons here, but really the number one reason why startups fail is no market need. So let's unpack that a little bit. What does that mean, no market need? So even if you look at the logo associated with it, there's a puzzle piece, and this puzzle just isn't fitting in. So really what no market need is you created a product, a service, but the market didn't really need it at that point. And so that's a big miss. It doesn't mean that your solution isn't potentially a great one, but the market just doesn't need it. Well, how do you avoid that? No one wants that to happen. So how do you avoid that? So let's get into that a little bit. Why do we care about this? And what is customer discovery and design thinking? So let's get started on that. I want you to look at these 4 areas, and I want you to kind of think a little bit about them. So when you look at these different things here in front of you, customer creation, company building, customer discovery, customer validation, what do you imagine the correct order of these items to be? If you were to imagine, where do you start first? Many people say, well, I need to start with creating customers because I don't have a business unless I actually have customers. So that's a common answer. The way that you actually need to start this is first starting with customer discovery. So this is really the customer discovery and company building pipeline. You start with customer discovery. You validate what it is that they need and how that aligns with your product or solution, what you need to do to evolve it. You then begin creating customers because now you've created something that works for them. And then you begin building your company. So this is the path that will lead you to the best success. A tool that helps us to do that, a methodology that can help us to do that, is design thinking. And that's why we're really talking about that today. There are many fads and fashions that are out there in the world. And you can go in a million different directions in how you do your work. But why would you look at design thinking in particular and potentially apply it into the work that you're doing as a startup? So hopefully today you'll get a little bit more of an insight into that. So to kind of frame up design thinking, think about it this way. Let's say you make bicycles. And if you make bicycles, if you're the company who makes bicycles, this is probably what you think of when you think of bikes, right? You're thinking of all the technical parts and pieces and how they fit together. This is the same if we create software. We're thinking of the codes, and we're thinking of the interfaces, and we're thinking of what the GUI will be. There's all these kind of technical things that we're thinking of, right, when we're creating our products or solutions. If you are, however, let's say the person who is actually using the bike, your image of a bike might be like this, which is dramatically different from this view. And the reason that I bring this up is what's important here is the viewpoint, the context, the emotions, the experience of the end user. That's what this image is showing us, which is dramatically different. So how do we get our heads into this space so that we actually create, in this example, a bike that works for this user? How do we understand the context of their world? So this is where design thinking comes in. This is a definition of design thinking. It's a empathy-driven, creative, and iterative problem-solving approach that focuses on identifying and solving for human needs. So I want you to look at this because each one of the words in here is pretty powerful. So I'd like for you to think of the ones that really stand out for you. So empathy driven, that means putting yourself into the shoes, into the experience of another person. Creative and iterative, so that's thinking very creatively, thinking very broadly. Problem solving, you can't solve a problem if you don't understand what it is. So that's where having techniques and approaches to really start with framing up a good problem is really important. And it focuses on identifying and solving for those needs. So it doesn't just stop with, well, now I found all these needs and I'm generating lots of ideas. You have to then bring it to the point of actually creating, iterating, and solving for those needs. Now, why is this hard? It's just people, right? Why is that so hard? Well, if any of you have ever been in a relationship with another person, you know that actually people are quite complex. There's often what we say and what we do which isn't always congruent with what we actually think and what we feel. So those things aren't always in alignment. If you've ever, let's say, made a New Year's resolution about something that you're going to achieve in the year, I'm going to exercise every day, or I'm going to eat healthy for every meal. That might be something that I say, but do I actually do it? I probably fall short on that. So often we think, well, we'll just ask someone a question and that's probably it. There's sophisticated ways of really getting out not just what people say, but what they're really thinking and what they're really feeling. And that's important when you're designing solutions for them. When you think about innovation, I like to frame it up in these three parts of a Venn diagram. So you can think about innovation from the lens of technology. So what's technologically feasible? And I know that all of you sitting there have a million different ideas and options in your mind about what you could possibly do from the technological standpoint. There's also business viability. What's actually viable from a business standpoint? What are the business models that surround it? How do we actually make this sustainable and grow over time? And then there's the human values. That's the desirability, the usability, how the user is going to interact with this, use it, what do they need? What makes design thinking different than potentially some other methodologies is it starts with the needs of people. It starts with the human values. So at the end of the day, all of these things are important. That's kind of the red zone here in the middle. All of these things are important. But what design thinking does is it begins the frame with the needs of people. And this is really so that we can create products, solutions that are needed, that work well, and actually build loyalty. I want to give you this simple example about coffee. So if you look kind of at what frames up this diagram, going from bottom to the top are products that are undifferentiated into products that are very differentiated. And this sort of is a gauge of your competitive position. Are you different and unique from others? The lower you are on the spectrum, the less differentiated you are. Also, the needs of the customers. If you're lower on this chart, it's probably you're slightly irrelevant. You can be replaced, right, by many different kinds of products and services. If you're higher up, you become very relevant to them. You become something that they find endearing, that they are loyal to your brand. So you can see this actually happen even as something as simple as coffee, for an example. Starting off with beans as a commodity, very cheap, very undifferentiated. You can swap them out. Begin to package beans into something that creates a product. People pay a little bit more for that. Wrapping a service around it. You sit down, someone comes to your table, serves you something, you're going to pay more for that service. It becomes a little bit more differentiated. Up into brand loyalty of, let's say, Starbucks, which is essentially a coffee shop. They provide, roasted beans with water. Well, what's unique about them? They've created this third space idea. It's the way that they serve people, their interactions, the customization you feel for the product that you're being given, the way that the space feels, all those things create it and make it feel very relevant to people. So that's an example of the progression of economic value. And so the way that you go from the bottom area to the top area is understanding people's needs. What is important in the context of their lives? What problems are they trying to solve? What are they struggling with? What brings them joy, satisfaction, and so forth? Many companies, and I realize this is a sort of a very US-centric view, many companies, I'm sure you can think of many on your own as well in India, many companies have design thinking as sort of a backbone of how they create their products and services. These are large companies. This also goes into smaller startups as well. Many of these companies started as startups. Airbnb, for example, designers founded that. They started with the principles around design thinking to grow to the company that they are today. Also, from an S&P standpoint, when you look at the US market, this was a study that was done. Companies that have design thinking as kind of their principles and how they create their products and being central to understanding their users' needs actually outperform other companies by 211%. So it has a market impact. So let's give an example. So an organization I want to give an example of is Kaiser Permanente. That's a healthcare organization. It's an example. That's a company that I was a leader in for many years. So this is what it looks like when you go, I'd say, out into the field and you begin to connect with people, put yourself in their shoes, observe them, interview them, start to understand what it is that's important and what it is that they're struggling with. We then took these kinds of insights and understanding, and we started thinking very broadly. So with a particular challenge that we were working with is when people come into clinic settings, so when you come in for an appointment, not hospital setting, clinic settings, when you come in for an appointment, what are those points that you're really struggling with? One of the things we were designing for was that coordination of all the activities of what happens in trying to get the patient into the right room, getting the clinicians there, getting the equipment where it's needed, and so forth. One of the areas we sought inspiration from was airports, both from the terminals as a user, as well as air traffic control, to think very creatively about what might be possible when we imagine that experience in our clinic settings. Then this is an example of really starting with really low fidelity prototypes. So what you see on the left is literally a poster board with blue painter's tape across it and sticky notes. And we were mocking up with some of the nurses what this potential interface, this dashboard to coordinate activities could potentially look like. So very low fidelity. I mean, it probably cost us maybe $5. So very low fidelity. We could get feedback. We could show it to her. We could show it to others and say, oh, no, I think the category should be this. No, I think they should be that. And very quickly and easily change it, take a picture every time we iterated it, and begin to continuously evolve it. We built it into a basic spreadsheet. We tested out the functionality of it, built it into kind of a wireframe so people could see it. And then eventually it became a product that spread across and impacted 10 million different members that were actually interacting with this dashboard and being served by the work of it and orchestrated their services. So it went, as I mentioned, from really low fidelity, blue tape, understanding what the needs are of people, prototyping it and evolving it into a product that was put in place and spread very broadly. Now, this kind of work got us featured in the Harvard Business Review. This is a screenshot of that around innovation on the front lines. Now, what actually makes me really proud of being featured here is really the fact that we did the work with the people who were challenged with the problem. We didn't just do it for them and then try to sell it to them. We did it with them. We evolved it with them so that it was something that actually worked for them. And we did this over many, many different types of approaches and solutions. I'll give you another example, GE. So GE, this is a magnetic imaging machine. It's high resonance. This is called an MRI. And an MRI allows you, if you're not familiar with it, to peer into the body and kind of slice up different views of the body in a painless way. And it was, when MRIs were invented, it was magical, what this was able to do in terms of what we were able to do before this was around in the world. So a colleague of mine, Doug Dietz, was working at GE at the time, and he was the head of their design and development division for these high-end MRI machines. So this is about an $18 billion business for them. So he was out in the field, kind of checking in and seeing what was going on, very proud of his machines. And he was trying to see what's the next iteration, what are the challenges we're having and so forth. And what he learned and what he found is that that these machines, people didn't want to use them. They were very costly to the radiology departments. And so he was thinking of all these technical solutions. Well, my gosh, okay, if we need to redo these MRI machines, let's think about how these are built. Let's think about, what it is that's occurring. Let's go back to the science. What is it that people aren't liking about this? He paused. He stopped focusing in on the shiny object and said, can I watch these being used by people? And what he saw is that 80% of the children that needed to go in and utilize these MRI machines had to be sedated because it was such a traumatic experience for them. So if you know anything about MRI machines, you can't move around when you're in them, and which is the opposite of what children do, right? Children move around all the time. And so the MRI machines, they have a very loud thumping sound when you're inside of them. Children are scared. They look intimidating. So they move around. So when you're telling them, don't move around, it doesn't work well. So they actually end up being sedated, which is a risky procedure. So this was devastating to him, but he learned what the need was, and so he decided to think creatively about it. Instead of focusing on, well, how do I make the thump more quiet? How do I redesign the entire machine? They opened up the aperture and they thought of solutions in very different ways. And actually what they came up with actually didn't end up being a technology solution at all. What they came up with was an experiential solution. So that was something that, that the kids were, it became an experience and adventure for them. You're a pirate and you're hiding in a ship, and, we're going to be still as we go out into the waters. And this actually reduced sedation from 80% to 10%, which is actually much safer for the children. It also sped up the process in the radiology department for the staff. It made the parents much happier. So the whole experience was very different. So I give that as an example because sometimes it's technology, sometimes it's the experience wrapped around the technology, but design thinking helps you, like I said, open up your aperture to figure out what it could be. So I'm going to whiz through a little bit about the mindsets, methods, and methodologies of design thinking so that you have kind of a little bit of a sense of what this looks and feels like. So let's look at this: mindsets, methodology, and methods. This is really what makes up any new approach, whether it's, Lean or Six Sigma or what have you. These things are a part of it. This is what it looks like for design thinking. So I'm going to talk about each one of these in order. Mindsets. Let's talk about the mindsets.
Yes, folks, we will continue the next part now. We have Vijita with us and we have the founders as well.
Thanks, Vinay. So without further ado, I would love to have the two founders to come on screen first. And then, hi Bhagishri, hi Akshata. So this is your show, ladies. And just to run through, I think you're going to come in order. So what you should be doing is take full advantage of this. You're on Facebook Live. We're going to be making all this material available, not just to this audience that is live, but also to our wider and wider communities. And you must also work towards spreading the word, because this is what really will help you guys. So please go ahead. So today it's going to be a startup showcase. This is episode 9, and we're going to be having, I would like you, Akshata, you and Bhagishri, you all should introduce yourself. Talk about what you all do and what drives you. What is your passion? You should ask about what you want. You're looking for more customers. You're looking for funding. You're looking for mentors. You're looking for technology support. Whatever you need, this is your show once again. So please go ahead. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Vijita.
Thank you, Akshara. Thank you, Bhagishri.
Yeah.
Are you guys ready? Screen share, everything set? Yeah.
Sure. So, Akshata, should I go first? Is that okay with you?
Yeah, please, Bhagishri. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, everyone. So this is Bhageshri Jain, and I'm the co-founder of the disposal company, and I'm also the director of thermo waste solutions. So to give you a brief idea of what I do, I come from plastic recycling industry, and we are essentially, the disposal company is a plastic waste management company based in India. So we are currently working with some of the biggest brands in the country, which includes Whirlpool, Old Monk, then, Panasonic, and we work with a lot of governments, UP, Rajasthan, wherein we are essentially working on developing an entire ecosystem for plastic waste management in the country. So currently, plastic waste management is super important from 2 reasons. One is, first, your compliances. So there are a lot of compliances that are coming not just in India, but globally around plastic waste, which is, because plastic waste is posing a great threat to our environment, and it has started to even enter human bodies in terms of microplastics. So our company's main objective is to tackle plastic waste from all, basically from the sources, and, to tackle it at the source, and not to, not after it ends up in the landfills or, even worse, into our bodies. So we are working on that. Second of all, it also comes from a value perspective, wherein a lot of companies, a lot of brands are now opting out to go sustainable. They're now they're understanding that, this is what the consumers demand. This is not just something, a trend or something. This is essentially, what we're looking at as a future. So without further ado, let me, also start sharing my screen and, share a little bit more about my company. So, okay, I think there is some technical issue here on my side. So let me just give you all a brief about my company, verbally. So the disposal company is currently based out of 7 cities in India, wherein, we have our own recycling unit, and we are working on, promoting We are working on developing franchise, wherein we are working with people on developing franchise in waste collection centers and in recycling units. So we are working on setting up the recycling units across the country, wherein we are recycling different types of plastics. So essentially, there are two types of plastic. One is recyclable and the other is non-recyclable. The non-recyclable only forms 20% of the entire plastic waste that we generate, whereas 80% of plastic that we are using every day as businesses or even as consumers is all recyclable. But of course, then there comes the next part, where is some of the plastics are high value and the other plastics are low value. So currently, our focus is on making all these plastics or the low value plastics, which are not being recycled as of yet to their full potential. We're working on making them recyclable. And we're not working on this on just a domestic level or just on India level. We are working with brands across the world, wherein all the brands that are even supplying to India. And in fact, like if you guys know that, there are a lot of brands, that a lot of companies and a lot of countries, in fact, who send their plastic waste to our country. So our country imports a major amount of plastic waste that is generated across the world. So we are also, for past many years, these plastic waste that has been being imported into our country has been filling up the landfills. But we are working on, reducing these landfills. And in fact, like, we are hoping to eliminate landfills altogether. And we are setting up an ecosystem where all the recyclable plastics can be recycled and the non-recyclable plastics can be used for their calorific value into waste to energy plants and cement industries. So to present to you, what we essentially do is that for all types of brands, either if you're a manufacturer or if you're a certain brand which is using any types of plastic, we as plastic waste management partners, we collect the physical plastic that is possible across the country, or otherwise we are also developing India's first plastic credits platform, which is essentially very similar to carbon credits platform. Similarly, as a brand, you can simply go to our website and you can put in your details as a brand, how much plastic is it that you're using, and also the type of plastic that you're using. For those of you who are using any sort of plastic packaging, you would know if your particular products are using PET or LD or HDPE. So by categorizing by the type of plastic that you use, we essentially collect that amount of plastic waste from municipalities. In the process, we also empower the rack pickers, the kabadi walas, and in fact, like, the lowest levels of the ecosystem. And we are working on empowering them and providing them a sustainable income, a regular income. And then for collecting the municipal plastic waste, we recycle it. And to the brands, we provide proper certifications, and we do their entire compliance part in what they require for using their plastic packaging. And we also have API solutions for all the e-commerce brands that are using any sort of plastic. So we design one custom take-back programs for them, but we also provide the plastic credits to these ecosystem brands. We provide an API. So essentially what this API does is that your consumers can simply, at the checkout, they can decide to add a couple of cents based on which we determine, of course, based on the kind of packaging and the amount of packaging that you're using. A couple of cents can be added at the checkout, and you can make the entire order plastic neutral without incurring any extra burden on your business. So these are the custom solutions that we have. We also have a trademark seal of sustainability, which is very similar to your FSSAI certificate, that if you have this trademark seal of sustainability on your packaging, the consumers can be ensured that this particular product and this particular brand is plastic neutral. So based on, and we are working with a lot of clients in hotel industry, especially in the luxury hotel industry, because the luxury hotel industry is currently very active on sustainability. So we're working with some of the biggest hotel brands in the country to make their entire hotels, their entire facilities plastic neutral. So this is in brief, what we do. So if you're any business or, if you're into any business, we have custom solutions to make you go sustainable, to lead your sustainable initiatives. And this goes far beyond just greenwashing. This actually goes on where you can make a difference, where you can actually make your products or your business completely plastic neutral. So this is what we do, and our ask here essentially, what we expect, or what we are requesting you all to do is that if it is your business, or if it is a business that we would certainly love to have more and more brands come into become more sustainable, and we would love to be their plastic neutrality partners. And this can be done. Our solutions are geography agnostic. So our request from TiE and our request from, everybody attending here is that we would love to be connected to more and more brands, global or, India based, that, if we can expand this plastic neutrality initiatives across the country and across global actually.
Perfect. Hey, Bhagishri, what you can do is, since we are not able to share it on screen, please
Yeah.
put it on the chat, and then we'll also see how we can put it out. You can just try one last time if your laptop can share it.
Yeah, let me just try one more time.
Yeah, because
Thank
we
you
don't
so
want to
much.
rush you. You should take
Thank
advantage of
you.
the fact that you're on Facebook and it's on social media. So
Yeah,
no rush, absolutely no rush.
thank you.
You can share the presentation on the chat as well, Bhagishri. So right now you're bootstrapped, you'll have got raised any funding from family, friends. How is it?
So this is a bootstrap company.
Okay. And your
We
areas of
also-
operation are anywhere in India. You can take up business across.
Yes, our operations are actually not just in India. We also already have a team in UK, which is already active, and we are working with global clients right now.
Okay, perfect, great. And you're looking for funding. You're looking for customers, and you're looking for funding, right?
So essentially, we're not actually looking for funding. To be very honest, we are only looking for more and more customers and more connects.
Okay, great. So can you give us a nature of the customers? What kind of customers they are, so the audience also gets a fair idea, Bhagishri?
Yeah. So in nature of customers, honestly, like any brand currently, like, be it an e-commerce company, be it a manufacturer, be it a brand that is, like it's a consumer brand, or in fact, even if it's a B2B brand. So we are, we have solutions for all sorts of companies to make their products plastic neutral. If you're any company that is using any sort of plastic, even in your what you're incurring, or if it's something that you're supplying to consumers, we can help you go completely plastic neutral.
Okay, perfect, Bhagishri. So that's really good. So I think hotels, any companies, right? I mean, there are so many
Yes.
companies, and it's a
Exactly.
vital service also that you can provide. Great. So
Yes,
Bhagishri, we can do one thing, that while Akshata gets herself ready, try to see if you can still get the presentation out. You can always come
I
back,
will.
but I think you have shared your website here.
Website.
Maybe
Yes.
you want to share your LinkedIn profile for the rest of the audience as well. If anyone wants to get in touch with you or your team, your
Definitely.
email ID, whatever you want to do. Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much, Vijeta.
No
I'll
problem,
do this.
Bhagishri. Okay, great. So thanks so much. Akshata, would you like to just quickly test that your screen is working and everything so that we are seamless?
Sure, I think it is. I can.
Yes, okay, perfect. Hey, thanks a lot, Akshata, and Bhagishri, we'll catch up, right? You'll be around.
Yes.
And I want both of you guys back, and there might be some question and answers and thought processes coming in from the audience, which both of you can then take on.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
So, Vijeta, should I go ahead?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
All the best.
Thank you, Vijeta. So before I introduce myself, there's a question that I want to ask. So I'm going to quickly share my screen. So what comes to your mind when you think of waste? So when we think about waste, right? Okay. Apologies on that. Yeah. So what comes to your mind when you think of waste? Maybe the amount of waste that you would have seen in a landfill or pictures of it. A meme I have to share because I'm a millennial and that's what makes me expressive. You nasty smell, or how bad it looks. Or in our local Bengaluru language, like we say, if there's a person who's useless, we call him waste. So that might be the things that might come to your mind when you think of waste. How about I change your perspective on waste itself? The products that you see currently on your screen are all made from waste, completely from waste. So there is seed paper calendar, seed paper bookmarks. There is also a journal that's made with seed paper cover and recycled paper pages. And then there are awards that are made from recycled Tetra Pak boards. All this made from waste, quite a different outlook, right? As to how this looks to how this looks. I think Christi, who's the product design, presentation that you guys just saw some time back, was talking about this. I would personally think that a topology for us product design and thinking about how we can make waste look better, or for you to even change the mindset of people on the waste is what we're looking at. So in topology, this is one line that we use a lot. It is all it takes is one small change in the mindset to make a huge difference. Hi, I'm Akshita. I'm the co-founder of Topology, and here I am showcasing a company that is trying to change your mindset about waste. Being an eco-friendly company, which we started in 2018, here is a journey that led us to where we are. This company, Topology, is founded by me and my partner, Rahul. We were in Jakarta for a while, and we came back to India in 2018. That's when we realized that we are sort of the problem too. We are sort of part of the problem. We spoke about how much we love nature, how much we love trekking, but in the end, we didn't really do anything in our lifestyles or in our habits to be eco-friendly or to be nice to nature. So when we came back to India, this is a realization that hit us hard. Being a Bangalorean myself, not seeing the trees that I grew up with and seeing so much plastic around, it was a total shock to even realize that the green city of India was somehow becoming the plastic city of India. And it really hurt. And I thought, okay, I'm part of the problem, so we should all change. We went on to set up an eco-friendly home, which composting was done, recycling was done. All the products were switched. If they were plastic, they were switched to glass or steel containers. And it shocked us to understand that we had cut off our waste about 80%. And from throwing away waste every day to throwing it away every 2 weeks, it was a realization that made us think ahead and wonder, if being eco-friendly is so easy, why aren't we doing it? India being a country wherein, I'm sure all of you would remember your mothers, aunts, and everybody saving up the milk packets or keeping up the boost bottles in the house to store something else. So we're a country that was minimal, that was very conscious, and that always wondered how we can use a particular thing multiple times before we even threw it away, including the Colgate toothpaste that we make sure that we have emptied it entirely before we throw it away. How did India move to this single-use, use and throw concept that was there? That got us thinking, and it was in September that we thought, okay, let's just source a bunch of products. We'll just go figure out what is the issue. For us, why we didn't adapt was because there was no awareness, and then there was no, it was not affordable to be eco-friendly. It was somehow considered a socialist sort of a lifestyle that was there. We sourced bamboo toothbrushes. At that time, it was selling at 320 rupees on Amazon and everywhere else. So we sourced a bunch of these products, which also included bamboo toothbrushes. Went to an event randomly, and we were sold out in 2 hours. That led to us setting up Topology, which is an extension of our own lifestyle and learning. So Topology soon became a company that resold products. So we were reselling a lot of eco-friendly alternatives that are present in the market. Newspaper pencils, which have become super talked about right now, has been in India for over 8 years. Did you know that? So after that, we moved to become a pencil manufacturing unit, and then moving to seed paper, plantables and prints and products from it. In 2019, we got a lot of media attention. Thanks to one of the reporters in Indian Express, I should say, who wrote about us, and then we were quickly picked up by a lot of other people. So like I said, though we founded Topology in 2018, we have evolved a lot. We call ourselves the millennial company because we're very passionate. We work around environment, and we are constantly evolving. Nature, as you see, is constantly evolving and adapting to the changing situations. And that's how we see topology to be too. Because from being resellers to manufacturers of newspaper, pencils, and then eventually getting into product design and innovation and manufacturing of the end products, sourcing the raw materials and end products. This is where we are, and we are constantly evolving. A lot of people do tell us that there is not one thing that we do, but we do multiple things. We like to keep the topology that way because we do not like to fit into a box, but rather look to do as much positive impact to the environment as we can. So currently we sell newspaper pencils, we make printables and products with seed paper, and we also work with recycled Tetra Pak boards or MLP boards to make products. So I want to talk about the product innovation or the product design that we do very strongly in the last 1 year, I would say. One is a bookmark tag. A bookmark tag is a product tag that can also be used as a bookmark. The idea behind this was coming from a marketing background. I understand how much branding is important to even the smallest of the business, and we wanted to give them as much leverage to stay with their audience longer. So instead of a product tag that had just the MRP and the product code or the instructions, we also included a bookmark in it. In this case, it would allow the brand to engage with the audience a lot more. So that's the bookmark tag. Additionally, because it's made from waste, seed paper is made from waste, it's plantable and it can be grown into different plants. So there is no waste generated as such. Then there is the recycled Tetra Pak awards that we made for Women's Web. We first innovated this product in 2020 during the COVID, I would say, wherein we source these Tetra Pak boards that are made from waste plastic and Tetra Paks and is made into boards by Sahas NGO, a company in Bangalore. We source them, and this brand came to us wanting to make awards. They were not particular about eco-friendly, but we convinced them that there's a way to go about it. And we innovated this award, the VICA Award, the Women in Corporate Awards, was completely made from waste materials. Even the bottom stand that you see is made from waste wood, which we source from carpenters locally in Dharwad. In turn, making sure that these are not burned, but reused and have a longer lifetime. We are happy to say that this innovation sort of helped the brand Women's Web do a lot of social media buzz. So they came back to us in 2021 for their Orange Flower Award, which you see on the right. Again, made from recycled Tetra Pak and a waste wood stand. We also did Seed Paper Calendar 2021. This was our thought to bring and showcase the arts of India. So we do collaborate with a lot of artists to bring forth their work and also suggest them how they can go sustainable with it. So why the Seed Paper Calendar is different? Again, the stand that you see is from the wood waste that we got from carpenters, and this stand is made in such a way that it eventually becomes a phone stand. So once you're done planting all these Seed Paper Calendar, the stand sort of becomes your phone stand and you don't have to throw away anything. So we call it the entire total zero waste product. And recently we also did a big order with Randstad India for their Women's Day. So this W Power series, wherein we made a green journal, we had newspaper pencils which were printed with positive affirmations on them and a card. So it was again an opportunity to make a corporate switch to sustainable gifting, and to also they also helped plant about 1,200 trees, which was a huge win for us again, because their products were not only made from waste, there was no plastic waste that was generated, and additionally, because we planted trees, there were about 30,000 CO2 they were able to offset yearly by just planting those trees. Being a sustainable company, our 50% of the time is spent on awareness campaigns. So this is very important for us. It's not about making products and selling them alone. It's also about creating awareness. So we have done tree plantation drives. We also did a project called 1,000 Trees Project, Pay with Trees, where volunteers came on board with us, and they would, if they are writers, they would write, or if they are, if they work on LinkedIn, they would make LinkedIn profiles to get paid with trees. So we recently completed this 1,000 Trees project. Currently, we're also doing Cholo, Hubballi and Dharwad campaign with an intent to spread awareness about climate change and the plastic usage, and somehow look to reduce that. Another major thing that we do, we are also very conscious about our social responsibility along with our environmental. So the product packaging that we currently use are upcycled cloth pouches, which are made by an NGO in Bangalore. We are also talking to somebody in Dharwad to get more products from it. I'm sorry. The way ahead for us is we're looking at very much concentrating on being product design and innovations in waste materials, because we strongly believe that to move to a circular economy, it's important for us to use the materials that already exist than using new materials alone. I'm sorry. With the COVID, I think I'm not used to talking that much. So the idea is this, that whenever we talk about eco-friendly, right, it's either you switch to a biodegradable product or switch to an eco-friendly product. What we're trying to see here is, can we aid the circular economy by making products from waste that already exists, making sure that there are lesser waste in landfills, and there are more product switches that we can bring forth. We're also looking to build a retail chain of stores to make it more accessible and increase usage, because just with online it does work, but somehow we feel that if you want to reach the masses, we also have to make sure that it's available, it's seen, they can experience it, they can touch and feel the products that's there, which will increase awareness and also them switching to sustainable materials. We want to amplify B2B selling. In 2020, we saw a lot of small businesses that started up, a lot of home businesses that started up. So we want to be their back-end vendors who make products from waste and aid them to have more products to sell. And we also look to set up B2C e-commerce channel to bring Tier 2, Tier 3 ecopreneurs who are reaching out to us in the last couple of months to talk about how we can add their products to our store and help them reach to more community. And also increase our corporate green gifting solution, because corporate gifting is huge in India, and making that one particular change with Randstad India itself, we realized the kind of effect we would have and the kind of reach we would have in influencing somebody to become eco-friendly. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen. Vinay, could you help me stop sharing, please? I think it's not giving me the option.
Actually, that's fine. We'll get it out of that. Bhageshri, you would also like to come online?
Just a minute. I would like to end the
okay,
presentation.
you got something left to say? Okay.
Yeah. So the ask that we have is that we want to connect with manufacturers of raw materials made from waste, but also help us grow. And we're also looking at networking to increase the sales. That could be corporate connections that's there, or small businesses who are looking to add eco-friendly products to their product catalog. So thank you so much. That's about it. All I want to say is, let's change the perception of waste. Waste is not bad. Waste is just a raw material for us to do something new.
Thank you so much, Akshata, and it's something really nice to see. Was yes, as you said, we are part of the problem unless we adopt certain solutions and change the way we are behaving, isn't it? Thank you. And Bhageshri, you're back. Nice to see you back here. So Like, how's the journey been? What are the challenges that you guys are facing? I mean, would love to understand that part, because then we can actually try to
Right.
brainstorm some of the possible solutions also.
Right. So just so before we in fact talk about the challenges. So like Akshara just said that again I'm very thankful to Vijeta, you and Vinay for organizing this, because we actually found a synergy. Like Akshita just mentioned that they're looking for suppliers for recycled granules. We actually found this synergy right here, that we as recyclers, we produce these recycled granules. And I think we can work on making Akshita's products even more sustainable by providing these recycled granules. So yeah, like these are actually the kind of solutions and synergies that we are looking for. So firstly, thank you for doing this. And Vijita, like you just said about the challenges. So essentially, as a country, we are even we are quite nascent at sustainability as an ecosystem. So be it from a government perspective, or be it from brands perspective. So not a lot of brands are yet they're yet to find out that what are the alternatives. Though the alternatives exist, but I would also acknowledge that there is still a dearth of alternatives. But certainly there are certain alternatives which are not yet in the mainstream, but we are working on developing them. And yes, like these kinds of synergies could really help. And in fact, from our last conversation, we again found a lot of brands which want to seek alternatives, but they've yet not found the right tie-ups. And then of course, like from a consumer perspective, yes, consumers are evolving, they're looking for sustainable alternatives, but we still as consumers need to be more adamant about what we want, about that we need to be adamant about wanting sustainable solutions. Only then there's an incentive for brands or for manufacturers to look out for these alternatives, and to even sometimes pay a higher price for them.
Correct. Very nicely done.
Can I add to that, Vijeta?
Yeah, please, Akshita, go ahead.
The journey so far, I would say, is a little difficult, because people assume that if you're working for the environment, you're sort of an NGO, not really a social enterprise, or not somebody who's looking to make money. That sort of perception is an issue, because in turn we're not taken that seriously by any other startups or investors to think about, okay, there is money to make, there is some ROI that I can gain by connecting this. So that sort of mindset has been an issue, I would say, where anybody who's working with the environment or anything related to recycling are always considered an NGO.
Interesting, very interesting. So what are the kind of associations who work? Have you guys approached this governments, something like that? Do you think that's also a potential way to take this forward? Have you thought about
Yes.
that, or tried that, or is it?
Yes, in fact, I would like to present a real-time, idea on this thing. That currently, like I'm started working with Rajasthan government, wherein, like I just told about plastic credits. So plastic credits, because to come into mainstream, it is very important for the government to get involved. So I started working with multiple municipalities, again in Rajasthan, in UP, and in Delhi, wherein we are now working with government to develop the entire cycle, wherein the municipal waste is channelized to authorized recyclers. And then out of that, against that, we can provide credits to the government itself, so that even the brands who are taking these credits are not just they're compliant, but also they have a credible source. So I mean, again, so that is the ecosystem that we are working on developing. So yeah, and I think I mean, slowly but yes, the government is also waking up to the the next big thing, that next big thing in the climate change perspective.
So
Perfect.
we have also got an opportunity to work with the government. We have made brochures for them from seed paper, but we've also always found it to be a one-time thing. Somehow such events or such actions are a one-time thing, then a repeated switch to a sustainable material. So what I really feel is there's a need for a broader perspective, even with associations or with government. There's always a one-time thing they want to do and leave at it. And the concentration is always on solar power. Whereas we can fight climate change only if there is a holistic view that we see and changes that's made around.
Definitely, Akshita. And I think, Bhagishri have to play the roles of hustlers. You'll have to be the evangelist and the knowledge creators also. We also have Shivi here, who I think you all might be knowing. Hi, Shivi. Good to see her. And she's worked with AB and Bev and a lot of other corporates, and she's also supporting us with all these programs. So, Shivi, what do you think Bhageshri and Akshata can do? Because they've got a great thought process. They're looking to do something wonderful for the community and for the ecosystem and for society. So, what do you feel? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I have a lot of ideas. That's why when I was talking to Ben a few days back, I thought I know two good ladies. Let's bring them together. So I know Akshita from my ABN web days. She has not mentioned that she has done a gig for ABI also.
Yes, we have.
And then she has done a gig for me personally as well. Again, Bhageshri, I met I think through you during a very nice book launch of by her husband, and that's where she told me that she's working on the waste credit system. So what I think people needs to do, they are right. I think consumer needs to push, but like let's forget what has happened and not happened. Now there are a lot of organizations which are working on sustainability. Like there are capital firms which have set up just for the sake of environmentally sustainable company. They only fund in those kind of company, and India is full of them. And we have also invited, if you follow TiE Bangalore regularly, right? We have been inviting Ragini from Caspian, that who is also a charter member. She's doing amazing work. Sustainability. A lot of companies like ABI, Unilever, Dell, everybody is opening up their sustainability branch, their corporate social responsibility firm. So, yeah, just to get to these kind of people, talk to them now, because the awareness is not an issue. That's what I feel. So awareness, if you have started 4 years back, right? Awareness was
Yeah.
a big issue. You have to tell, no, you can't use plastic brush, because every plastic brush which is ever made in the history of the world is still on our planet. So that thing has been overcome. Now the second step is how you get better at sales and marketing, how eco-friendly startups get better at sales and marketing, because the price is also now not a challenge. Now it's kind of over. Now Bhageshri is talking about giving credits. It's not you give us plastic, we'll give you money. So it's other way around. So it's not that the products are price. Now it's about how do you put yourself on the map with the right sales and marketing. What I see missing in a lot of sustainable startup who I mentor also is they focus on a lot of products, a lot of capabilities, but you have to equally focus on how you can do the sales and marketing effectively. Now digital marketing, with the COVID, you don't have to do a lot on ground marketing. You have to start doing more and more. You have to start building more and more presence on a social media channel. So I think that's one thing which is missing. And then when you tell people, right, we need to develop a very good strategy. If you talk to a 50-year-old and tell them, no, you switch to a bamboo bridge, it might be very difficult. But if you go to a smaller child, a 10-year-old or 15-year-old, and then you tell them, so he will become consistent. That the problem you also raised, Akshita, that people are not becoming consistent, because it's also very difficult for people to source these things, right? If you have to print a plug, if you have to print a brochure, you can go to so many sites and do it online and everything. But if you have to get a print seed paper, and if you do a Google search, it's not. So your SEO needs to be effective. All these things come into. So I think more better sales and marketing can bring, people need to focus on that as well. And I think a lot of organizations are helping out. You need to build your network, I think, which is a major ask from the startups also here. And I think we have a wonderful audience of a lot of people who can help us right here. So yeah, and TiE Bangalore and TiE is always here, who's bringing up really nice showcases. So yeah.
So please use the opportunity. That's what really matters. And Bhageshri and Akshita, I think there are quite a few sustainability leaders that are connected with us on LinkedIn. See, because it's a virtual world, we don't know them, but you can always reach out to them and say that recently you were, on part of this TiE Bangalore pitch and
Right.
showcase. You try to talk to people around that, because that's the only way. And yes, how do you improve your, I would not say sales and marketing alone, though ultimately Shivi is very right. It is about sales. You have to be the hustlers. You got to open up more doors. But try to look at, there's a lot of things that is happening. I know from IM, from NSR Cell, many of these people are trying their very best to give opportunities for, wonderful founders who are going to make an impact on the environment. And yes, I'll take what Shivi said with a pinch of salt, that the older generation may not be so keen because they feel, yeah, I've paid my price
You
and I
don't
don't have too
consider
much time to
yourself
live.
old
But
anyways.
yes, the youngsters and children can be a very big influencer in changing the habits of people.
Yeah,
So,
true.
so
No,
create
I
some
agree,
nice.
agree completely. Marketing and sales is not the only thing, but yeah, you start with that because I know you. I know Docology products I've been using, and
Correct.
I've been telling others, but why it's not
Hmm.
that famous? Like a lot of startups are coming up. Bare necessities, if you see, I think
Yeah.
that's getting very popular because which is social alpha incubated. So yeah, so a lot of people are helping out grab those opportunities. You are also absolutely right. And SR Cell has set up their own sustainability division, actually, agriculture and sustainability, which is very nice.
And we also know that Cisco and all are trying to also pay a lot of
Yes.
attention to sustainability. They're focused from their innovation team. There's Nandini and there is Senthil, and of course their leader itself, Shruti. They're very much aware and trying to do their best for sustainability. Also, if I may suggest also that we have this Telegram group, the IoT Forum Telegram group. So there are quite a few people who are running other startups from the sustainability space, like you have Ganesh from FluxGen and all these
Yeah.
guys. Okay, so they're also trying to do their best. Okay, it is a tough one. It is uphill, and also the cost, right, Bhagishri and Akshata. Unfortunately, when you start outweighing the immediate cost rather than looking at the long term, but that's how things are today. So you have
Exactly.
to also work with other people to bring down the costs maybe of your products. Think about that as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So great, yeah. I mean, here we're not to preach, we're here to practice and help you guys. Bhagishri and Akshata, if you'd like, you guys would want to put your other details out here. You want to share your presentations so that we can maybe push it out. And Vinay, Shivi, we can maybe create a small infographic and a takeaway slide later on and attach the presentations and LinkedIn profile. Whatever, we'll figure something out for both of them. All right.
Sure.
Great, great. So what else can we guys do and what else are your plans? I know we talked about gaps, challenges. You're looking for more customers rather than funding because you're strongly believing in yourselves that you all can sustain yourselves. But any other thoughts, because we're on 5:11, we are just going to shift over
Yeah.
back to the design thinking presentation. But your parting words, your summaries, something else, Bhagishri, Akshata, to the audience.
Yeah.
You're on Facebook Live and you're going to be on more channels later. So please take
Yeah.
advantage of it.
So, Vijeta, like I would definitely want that, anybody, like again, just to reiterate it, that, any business that, anyone who's, working with or any company that, you're working with, like, sometimes like, because we work with a lot of brands to realize that, as manufacturers or even as brands, we do not realize, where we are using plastic. So say, even if you're an IT company, but in your offices, if you're using certain amount of plastic, which in every day, like even since in the morning when you wake up, you're using like even a smaller stuff, say soap or your face wash, or you're using anything, we start using plastic. And if you do not ensure, honestly today, if you do not ensure that it is like being sent to a authorized recycler, trust me, it is no more just ending into landfills. It's actually ending into your body. It is ending as microplastics. It is ending into your body. So of course, like if you can switch completely to say sustainable alternatives, very good. But till the time, we are honestly a long way from there, but till the time, if you can do that for yourself, I would really recommend that as part of the ecosystem, as anybody who's like working with any company or somebody who owns a brand or anything, please look out for solutions. Look out for solutions where you can pitch in and work on plastic neutrality, because it's super important on a personal level, and then of course on a environmental level, then of course on a global level as the human species ourselves. So yeah, like I mean, we would love to talk to people from all walks of life, and yeah, like we would love to build synergies there. Akshara, if you would like to add something.
So first of all, I want to say kudos to Bhagishri and all the work that she does. As a women entrepreneur, I'm sure there's so much more that you face and you're still barging ahead, and I'm really glad to have connected with you on that. What I want to say is we at Topology really believe that we need more people in sustainability than just us. There can never be one person who solves the problem. It's always a lot of us together who can solve this problem of climate change. And I really thank Shivi for always being there of telling things, of mentoring, or even informing me, or inviting me into amazing networking sessions, or even introducing me to a lot of people. So this is one key. Another, I would really tell people that connecting with each other really matters. And if you're a sustainable business, or if you're any business who wants to become sustainable in the way that you're doing business, do get in touch and let's talk about it. And additionally, if there are students, or if there's somebody who wants to start up in sustainability, we at Topology always are here to tell you everything that we did, including the mistakes we made, so you can take a leap ahead and start in sustainability. So do connect with us if you want to start up in sustainability, or already there. We would love to talk to you about it.
That's awesome, Akshata. No, wonderfully good.
Thank you.
Vijeta, can I also request you, because from your network, and because of the ecosystem that you are sitting in, again, government intervention is very important here, and unless all the stakeholders put in their skin in the game, we cannot achieve sustainability. It is, so we really I would really like to request that, if you on your behalf can build more on this ecosystem, if we can have more of these conversations, and if we can, again, next time when we have this conversation, if you can bring more stakeholders here and, have them listen and have them also put forward, their views, so that we also have a holistic idea of where we need to work more on. So that would also really help us build this ecosystem further.
Yeah. So Bhagshay, what you can do is suggest us names, send us LinkedIn profiles, who are the people who are potential stakeholders on this, and we will write to them. We will we can do roundtables, we can do workshops, all that kind of stuff, right? So you all
Thank
and also
you.
I believe that you all should also collaborate with each other, find ways that you all can approach,
Yeah,
Very
put
much.
your forces together, work with Shivi as well, figure out what are the things
yeah,
that we can do. And definitely, now the sky's the limit. It's a good thing to do. It's a good cause, and it's I mean, you guys should also be self-sustainable. You all should be making money. You all should be making profits, because you'll have to invest in technology. You'll invest in marketing. You have to build your teams, your products, etc., etc. So fine, we'll definitely do that. Okay,
thank you.
Thank
no
you.
problem, no problem. Okay, and Shivi, is there anything else to add? Otherwise, please stay back. We're going to be continuing with the other session around design thinking. And it's just to NetApp is, by the way, one of our partners whom we work with. Madhurima is their leader and running the accelerator program. Wonderful person, great team. So they're also trying to do their best around sustainability. Everyone wants to bring down and carbon footprints have to be reduced. In fact, if
Yeah,
you should
just
remember,
one
Shivi,
last,
yeah,
yeah,
last year also we had done that thing, no, with that World Wildlife Fund and etc. etc.
yes,
Robin
WWF,
Matters and Professor Mani from Indian
yeah,
Institute of Science also had come for that. Yeah.
yeah. So one last thing from my side, I think that answers questions. So I run a small company called 1000+ Entrepreneurs, where I aim to, provide mentoring, consulting, networking to startups who are working in domain of sustainability, using technology for good, or working for assistive tech or healthcare or education segment. So I've just put the links in the chat. Please have a look and join us if you can. So we also do these things. We work with TiE, we work with other organizations as well. And we kind of do these kind of things. Yeah, that's it. And hopefully when we work together, right, we will be able to achieve much more.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's the real key. Working together makes all the
Yeah,
difference.
yes.
Okay, perfect. Hey, thanks so much, ladies. It was very nice. But Bhagshay, just remember that both of you, I mean, I know you'll have put your, I think if you'll have put your, I hope you'll have put all your website details, your LinkedIn
Yeah,
profiles, whatever else that you need, it should be out there so that we
yeah,
can help you guys to connect with the audience later on. Okay. So thank you
definitely.
once again.
Yeah.
And Vinay, we're switching back to the presentation on design thinking, right?
Yes, we are. We have a
Okay,
few more
perfect.
minutes.
And Akshata, Bhagshay, we'll anyway stay in touch. Okay.
Yes.
And
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much, Vijeta. It was really nice talking to you again.
Yeah,
no problem,
likewise.
boss.
Thank you
My
so
pleasure.
much.
My pleasure, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So let's look at this: mindsets, methodology, and methods. This is really what makes up any new approach, whether it's, Lean or Six Sigma or what have you. These things are a part of it. This is what it looks like for design thinking. So I'm going to talk about each one of these in order. Mindsets. Let's talk about the mindsets. So mindsets of design thinking are very important. They go through inclusion and empathy. How do you involve people in this? How do you gain empathy and understanding for them? Radical collaboration. How do you bring people in and work with them in a very fast-paced kind of way, and in a way that brings their voices to the table? Starting small and learning fast, that's kind of self-explanatory. Don't start too big, start small, iterate along the way. A way that you do this is make things tangible. You saw the example of even making, a software and interface tangible through blue tape and a poster board. Share work early and often. Don't wait until you think it's perfect, because I hate to say this, it's not perfect and it won't be. So share work early and often, bring oxygen and light to it. Let people provide feedback and make selective strategic choices as you iterate along the way. The methodology. This is kind of a methodology that ties it together. You've heard me talk about things from trying to understand, framing opportunities, imagining what those possibilities could do, prototyping your ideas, piloting them, and operationalizing them to spread. Now, there's a lot of ways. If you were to Google right now, if you pull up your phone and Google design thinking, you're going to see a lot of different images. So, I encourage you to do that. Take a look at them. But what I don't want you to do is to get tripped up in the images. So if we were to strip the kind of visuals away from all of this, I want to tell you what is actually behind it all, as what the methodology actually is made of. It's really this double diamond. So take away all the graphics, take away all the colors. This is what's behind all of them. So high level, I want to start with a couple things high level. Finding the right problem and finding the right solution. So you always start with, what is the problem? Sometimes that's called problem framing. What is the problem that you're actually trying to solve for? Once you understand that problem, then you move into finding the right solution. What is it that's actually going to help us understand that? So you want to find and understand a real problem. That's really step one. That's the most important thing to begin with. Another thing that's important that you see here, if you look sort of down the middle, is you do this through empathy, understanding, and know you are not your user. Even if you do use this product, the service that you're creating, you're not the user. So let's say, for example, if I were to say, well, I've been to a clinic, I've had an appointment before, so I can just go on my own experiences. I can't. And the reason that I can't and I shouldn't only go on my own experiences is because I'm a subject matter expert, and so are you. So what you're working on, the back end, the infrastructure, workarounds when things don't work. Most of your users don't. So that's why you can't just count yourself as a user. Are you a user? Yes. Are you really the ultimate user you're designing for? Probably not. Another, diverge and converge. Now, I talk a lot with my hands, so if you're looking at the image, you can see this. So diverge and converge. Diverge is really thinking very broadly. That's expanding out. That's opening up your mind to possibilities. And converging is making choices, being strategic, narrowing things down. So the reason that this double diamond is actually a diamond, it's shaped like this is because there are different phases where you're thinking divergently, you're thinking very broadly, you're thinking about possibilities, and then you're also then, after that, making choices. So this first diamond is you're empathizing with people, you're defining what the problem is and shaping it down. Then you're creating many ideas, prototyping them, and then testing them and putting things into production. That's the double diamond approach of design thinking. What's important is you can't do these things simultaneously. So when you're working with your teams, set aside time for thinking divergently, set aside time for converging. Why this is important now, this is kind of a fun little thing. The percent of genius divergent thinkers in age. So some of us will say, well, I'm really not that creative. I handle the technical things. I'm a coder, or, what have you. We're all creative. I want to kind of go through this. So age 3 to 5, there's a study that was done around what's considered the genius level of divergent thinking. So creativity is correlated with your ability to think divergently, to open up possibilities. So 3 to 5-year-olds, 98% of 3 to 5-year-olds rank at the level of genius. So think about, let's say 7 to 10-year-olds. What do you think that would be? It's 32%. It plummets at age 7 to 10, continues to plummet 14 to 15 at 10%. And then as an adult, 2% of us rank at the level of genius of divergent thinkers. Now it's a pretty sad chart in my mind. However, I think this is because over time, we filter out what we think is possible. How many of us here would say, oh, I'm a great artist. But if you ask 3 to 5-year-olds, they would all raise their hand. I'm a great artist. Over time, we've started to think we're not creative. We're not good enough. We're supposed to come up with the right answer every time. Now, what's heartening in this for me is the fact that all of us at one point in time were age 3 to 5, which means at one point in time in our life, we were genius levels of divergent thinkers, of creatives. All we have to do is build the muscle to get that back again. So as we continue, thinking creatively and thinking divergently, the next part in that design thinking is iterating. As I mentioned in the Q&A, is really being able to iterate and take your ideas and prototype them very rapidly. So this is important because prototypes give teams something to think about. They give your users something to think about. We often get caught in talking about what the idea is. Should it do this? Should it do that? Should it look like this? Should it look like that? Prototypes give you something to look at, respond to, tear apart, and reconfigure. So, this is an example of, somebody like say putting together a car. You could do the same thing with software. The value of prototypes is less in the models themselves, but it's in the interactions that they invite. Tell me how, show me, click through this, show me how this is working for you. Talk out loud about what it is that you're doing while you're doing it. So that's really the design thinking methodology from beginning to end. There are many methods. I don't have time today to go through all of these, obviously, but know that there is a host of awesome methods that you can use. I'm just going to highlight just a few that I think are great ones to begin and to get started with. So one is AEIOU, activities, environments, interactions, objects, and users. So this is how you go out and with fresh eyes, look at the environment. So this is more observational research. I recommend this to startups that, let's say you are creating something that might take place in a work world. So if you're in a B2B role, for example, have you actually been into that business? Have you been able to observe how that business takes place? What activities are they doing? What's the environment and the character of the space? What are people doing with one another? So if you have the possibility to do that, and I know during a pandemic, that's a little tricky. We're not going to be in this state forever. Observing and understanding the context of the people that you're designing those solutions for is very important and very eye-opening. Another thing that you can do to get started is qualitative customer discovery interviews. I recommend that you take a screenshot or a picture of this and look at each of these questions and say, do I ask questions in this way? These are fresh perspective ways of asking questions. This isn't you validating your idea and saying, what do you think about your idea? This is pulling back and getting their context. So this is a great way to start too. Understanding, why do you call things this way? Can you walk me through your typical day? Even when we need to do things completely virtually, asking questions, having customer discovery interviews is completely possible. A journey map is another thing that I think is a fantastic tool. So a journey map, what it does is it takes us out of just our solution and it looks at the end-to-end experience of a person. So this is probably an example you may not have thought about, and I think this is great. This is from a museum, the Smithsonian Museums in Washington, D.C. So the square gray box here in the middle is actually the museum itself. So if you were creating something, say you're creating software, you kind of tend to think of your user's experience just within when they're using your product or service, right? So in this example, what the Smithsonian did is they zoomed back and said, okay, well, we know that actually their experience starts and ends before this. So it actually starts with them thinking about, I'm about to take a trip. Where should I go? I decide, let's say, to go to Washington, D.C. What are things that I should see there? Let's look at marketing resources. Let's go to various websites. How do I plan my trip there once I arrive? How do I look at signs and maps to actually find the Smithsonian building? Now you go through your experience and now you leave. You reflect back on your ideas. You might share what you saw at the Smithsonian on social media. You might want to plan a trip to come back. So by looking at it for this end-to-end through your user's experience, you actually can find many different innovative opportunities to really differentiate your service or your product. So I highly recommend journey maps. You can do this with just Post-it notes and kind of going through from end to end. Rapid prototyping. So this is kind of sort of the final, very specific example. Lots of things here with rapid prototyping. You could prototype tools that are sort of physical tools. If you start from the top left, you can prototype. This is an easy way of prototyping, say, apps and interfaces. You can even stick, Post-it notes on screens of computers to say, well, first you would do this, and then you would do this. So really quick, fast ways of doing things. Simulating experiences. So let's say if you created something that also had a physical component of it, you could have people act it out. This is a group of people acting out some new equipment and new technologies in the operating room. Here's a camera here. So this is not a live operation. They're simulating how it would work. If your ideas have some kind of different workflow component to it, you can put somebody in a backfill role or temporary role to sort of fill that. Let's say you have a concierge part of it. You don't have to hire and get everything, solidified. Put in a temporary role to do that. Space, you can put blue tape on the floor to simulate what space might potentially look like. And then there's the business model canvas that helps you, or lean canvas. It helps you actually prototype your business model and how that business model would work. So these are expansive ways of thinking about what prototypes are and how you can utilize them and what it is that you do. So you might be thinking in my final point, what about remote work? Christi, we're virtual. So how do we do this? There are ways of doing that. I know my company, for example, has created a whole toolkit around taking many of these methods and making them in a virtual world. So you don't have to stop working this way just because we might be in a point in time to do work virtually. We've reimagined these. You can reimagine these as well. But this is the kind of thing you can continue to do this sort of work. You just have to think a little bit creatively about it. So to recap, main reason startups fail, no market need. You really need to start with customer discovery. If you're already further down the path, it's fine. Continue to build in that discovery and that exploration. It'll help you refine something and create a product that works for people, because their context is actually what's the most important. We need to understand not just what people say and do, but what they think and feel. Allow space for that. Design thinking, we talked about mindsets, methodology, and methods. These are a few methods that are highlighted that we went through today. And we talked about this, that what makes design thinking unique is starting with human values, so that we create things that are needed, that work well, and actually build loyalty. So if I were to give you a recommendation of, perhaps where to start, and, your starting point might be different, but clarify, what are the assumptions that you're making about your software product, your physical product? What are they? Who are your customers? Conduct insights, observe them if you can, and continue to iterate your prototypes. So thank you very much for your time. And this is Design Thinking.
Okay, great. So thank you very much, Vinay. It was a very beautiful presentation for everyone on design thinking. This is Vijeta from TiE Bangalore. We would love to have you guys to also join us on the 19th. We have sessions on 19th. We have sessions on 25th. We have many things happening. So please follow us, subscribe to our newsletters, and be part of our Telegram group. If you want anything to do with the IoT hardware, IoT forum, we run a very beautiful, curated, and active Telegram group. And looking forward. Thank you very much, everyone, and stay safe. Catch up online very soon. Take care. Thank you.